State of the Union address was quite a performance by President Trump. Maybe one of the highlights of humor was when he focused on the Social Security Administration. Remember what he told us? 4.7 million, quote, Social Security members, that's the term he used. 4.7 million Social Security members were between 100 and 109 years old. He went on to say that 1.3 million between the ages of 150 and 159, 130,000 over the age of 160 Social Security members. This was the president's words. And he goes on to talk about 1,039 between the age of 220 and 229. Even one 360-year-old person. The place was rocking with laughter to think that a federal agency as important as Social Security could be defrauded by people claiming to be this age and still receive checks. What a great joke. What a misrepresentation of truth. What the president said was not true. It was misleading. It was overblown. It was inaccurate. In fact, it was just plain wrong. He delivered this address to a joint session of Congress to the American people, the one time each year when we are to focus on the president's words. And he made these deliberate misrepresentations of the Social Security Administration. He claimed that the unelected billionaire Elon Musk and his Doge boys had identified, quote, shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud within Social Security. Mr. Musk then claimed at a later point that tens of millions of dead people over the age of 100 are still receiving Social Security benefits. Outrageous, outrageous, and untrue. In his speech, President Trump claimed there was a 360-year-old somehow receiving Social Security benefits as a member. I'm not sure what that means. Obviously, it raised eyebrows. How could somebody born in the 1600s be receiving Social Security benefits? Turned out it wasn't true. What the president said was misleading and untrue, not truthful. The Social Security Administration has databases that include the information on millions of Americans. Some of those records lack a recorded date of death, but of course that certainly doesn't mean that the people are still alive. And it certainly doesn't mean further that they're receiving any Social Security benefits. The Washington Post obtained internal records which show the Social Security Administration looked into this very issue last month. What did they find? Only 1,300 Americans over the age of 100 were still receiving benefits. That's far short of the, quote, shocking levels, the president said, of incompetence and probable fraud. Excuse me. The truth is, you'd be hard-pressed to find another agency that is more closely scrutinized than Social Security. It routinely audits benefit payments to make sure they're accurate. The Office of Inspector General conducted a report in 2024 which found that less than 1% of Social Security payments were improper. Less than 1%. But President Trump's statement made it seem like Social Security is riddled with fraud and incompetence. Payments to a 360-year-old individual? Outrageous, untrue. You wonder why he said these things to the American people in his State of the Union address. I believe President Trump and Mr. Musk are intentionally misrepresenting the challenges Social Security faces as the rationale to implement their harmful policies. The Trump administration's disdain for Social Security is clear. Elon Musk, the president's unelected buddy, described Social Security, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time, said Mr. Musk, and shared a post on Twitter that called those who benefit from federal programs, get ready, quote, the parasite class. The parasite class, Social Security recipients. And Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick called Americans who were calling in to report missing Social Security benefits fraudsters. This same billionaire, Mr. Lutnick, bragged that his mother-in-law wouldn't care if she didn't receive a monthly paycheck, a monthly check from Social Security. Well, perhaps the son-in-law of a billionaire, or if your son-in-law is a billionaire, you don't care. But most people don't live that kind of life. These comments are not only wrong and misleading, they are sickening. Sickening. These people worked their whole lives paying into Social Security with the promise it would take care of them when they decided to retire. And now the question is being raised as to whether they were parasites throughout their lives. First, this disdain for Social Security and the Americans who rely on it can be found in the policies that are being pushed by the administration. The President announced that 7,000 workers at Social Security will be terminated. 7,000. That's 12% of the total Social Security workforce at a time when the Social Security Administration is facing a 50-year staffing low. Second, the President announced that Social Security will limit 1-800 phone services. It already takes a half an hour to reach a representative at Social Security. Now there are reports it's taking several hours to get a call picked up if you have a question. Nearly 9,000 people become eligible for Social Security benefits every single day. They should not have to wait hours to speak with someone if they have a legitimate question. Third, President Trump announced the closure of Social Security offices across America, including some in my state of Illinois. I ran into an individual at a coffee shop in Springfield a few weeks ago. He's retired now, and he said, "Senator, it was smarter for me to get in the car and drive 40 minutes each way to Litchfield, Illinois to the Social Security office rather than wait in line for hours at the Springfield office." Each one of the actions taken by the Trump administration has made it more difficult for seniors and people with disabilities to access their benefits. Americans are worried, some are even terrified, questioning whether or not they will continue to have access to earned benefits and essential services. How do I know? Many have written to me. Carolyn from Chicago recently told me she tried to call Social Security to make an appointment. She was told the wait time on the phone was 120 minutes. She waited the 2 hours, but still couldn't get to speak to someone, hung up, tried again later, and was told again another 120-minute wait. Imagine waiting on hold for 2 hours for your phone call not to be picked up. Carolyn told me the level of service from Social Security right now is unacceptable. She's kind, and she's right. Americans depend on Social Security and its workers to pick up the phone, answer the questions, and help them secure their benefits. Social Security is a bedrock of American society. It is a promise. Almost all of us contribute to it throughout our lives, expecting it'll be there when we need it. But as usual, President Trump is making the problem even worse. Since 2010, Social Security's customer service budget has been reduced by 20%, accounting for inflation. Staff has fallen by 11%, while 13 million additional beneficiaries have started to receive benefits. For too long, we've asked the Social Security Administration to do more with less, and now President Trump has taken that to an extreme. So I'm calling on him to abandon these plans. If you actually want to make Social Security more efficient, it needs more well-trained people, more resources, more funding. We do not need the recent college graduates in the so-called Department of Government Efficiency taking Social Security for a joyride while their grandparents are in the back holding on for dear life. And we certainly don't need the sage advice of billionaires who cannot begin to understand what it means to live month to month waiting for your Social Security check, as so many Americans do. Mr. President, I yield the floor.